Be Honest with Dr. Yana. Join me for honest conversations with experts, get practical advice that will help you to better navigate your relationships and empower you to create meaningful and lasting connections. Fridays on United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are live back again on United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM on Be Honest with Dr. Yana. And today we have a fantastic guest with us. His name is Dr. Odell Johnson. He is a great friend of mine. He is a transpersonal psychologist and public health researcher at the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences. His research interest focused on the development of novel interventions that promote self-actualization processes in under-resourced and marginalized communities using culturally congruent, innovative, cutting-edge research. He's also an associate professor of skepticism, that is a very interesting one, and critical thinking, and that is absolutely amazing one, at University of Washington, Tacoma, and mind-body medicine at Saybrook University. Dr. Odell, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
We are so happy that you're with us today. Because it took us a little while to meet live here in the first place. And second, that you and I both got so many comments, negative comments on even talking on this topic, didn't we?
We did. I definitely had from my network, I posted that I was going to be speaking on this broadcast on my social media pages, and had friends that reached out to me and said, do you really think you want to talk about that? Or you shouldn't talk about that. I mean, women are going to be really blasting you or either been feeling somewhat attacked. And so, and I thought about it and I said, well, this is a topic that we must talk about because we all experience it. It's really a reality. The word narcissistic and narcissism has been thrown around as the go-to word when there's relationship dysfunction. And certainly I've been accused of being a narcissist, and so I'm going to admit that. And so, but I'm not sure if it was just something a useful word for the time, because it's if you go to social media, you just Google in narcissism and narcissist podcast. You have a lot of people talking about it. Everybody have their own opinion about what it is, and we know that it's definitely a psychological disorder, and so but it can be managed and it can be eradicated and controlled. And so I think that a lot of men are getting a bad rap. That when the relationship begin to start falling apart, narcissism is the go-to word for most women. But men rarely say to women, "You're a narcissist," because it doesn't really feel right. It's because it's so profoundly directed toward men. And so I had to really give it some thought and say, well, women have some of those same behaviors as men in relationships, and also it's not limited to relationships. It's also extends to the workplace, to the community. So it's just really all over the place in the groups and in the communities in which we engage.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I remember you told me that, oh, I had so much hate, like so many questions, like been accused of being a narcissist. Like I almost believe that. and and the thing is that the interesting question is that, do you really want to talk about it? There is some little notes of a thread. Do you really want to talk about it? It's became sort of like a taboo topic in our society, because most of the time we talk of men being abusive and narcissistic and mistreating women, And men, just biologically, they were created that way. And also, not only biologically, but socially, they were not really brought up with showing a lot of empathy, uh, a lot of emotion. They're supposed to man up, take care of the problems, right? And
Right.
really not overshare, not to share anything that is on their hearts. And men grow up knowing that the majority, of course, there is a huge shift in the society lately, and men are acquiring a lot of female characteristics, and it's also uh, they do have empathy, and they do have some other aspects, like even sharing emotions, sometimes even being, not sometimes, and most of the time, even being emotional and sharing that. So there is a shift. However, as we speak of the society right now, men are not oversharing. And that is why men can, in my opinion, they can be perceived a lot as narcissists, because what? Okay, that I'm looking for support here. And men can be goal oriented problem solvers. And all of a sudden, if a woman complains about something, right? Oh, there's a problem, sometimes he just wants to talk. So there are huge differences between men and women that needs to be managed here and understood as well, instead of just blaming fingers that you're a narcissist, for example, right? um,
Exactly.
yeah, so the woman comes with her emotions to a man, and man, of course, like, man's up, but immediately puts on a helmet of solving problems and goes to solve that problem. That's how men are designed. But for women, sometimes she just wants to talk, and it can be really aggravating for a woman. And she may think that, oh, you're so insensitive, you're a narcissist, there's no empathy there. All you think is about practical things and blah, blah, blah. So that can be a problem as well. And men can be labeled as narcissists, absolutely undeservingly so.
Exactly. And I totally agree with you. When you say man up, just thinking about my own experiences, I mean, I can really relate to what you're saying is that, we are, our childhood experiences and how we were raised does kind of shape us in being who we become. And so men are, more task focused. They are taught that they are to be responsible, take care of the family, work hard, and they really don't have. And so when you work in that kind of capacity, oftentimes you just kind of one way focused. And so when you do come into your personal space with your partner, when they're talking, you hear them, but you don't hear them because you're thinking about the next thing that you need to do to make the family feel safe. It's not that you are not don't value their opinion. You're not being nurturing and understanding, but it could be that the focus you could be the somewhat defocus on things that make sure that you are covering and making the relationship safe. And women take that the wrong way. It's like you're not paying any attention to me, and I'm going to punish you too. And I'm not going to pay attention to you when you start talking to me. So then that could be a kind of exchange that could be certainly constantly. It could be an exchange that could be constantly built into the relationship, and those situations would occur on a regular basis, and that would make for a relationship that's really being damaged by not really understanding the dynamics of how men think and how we internalize things and how we function. And so I think the women would really do themselves a favor to really to ask the right questions to men about their day and what they're thinking about and how do you feel, so being a little bit more compassionate about this the male role in the relationship and also in society in general.
Absolutely. And of course, girls, when they grow up, they are socialized for playing nice, for empathy, sharing feelings and vulnerability. And when they come to a man and they get a wall there, for example, of solving the problems, right? Then can be, of course, a misunderstanding there as well. But also, the most important thing that I have learned through my entire life is that I also got upset, for example, I felt misunderstood. And then I started thinking, because a man would just completely not understand what's going on. Like, oh, okay, so I provide everything for you. You have everything. What else do you need?
Mm.
And I
Yeah.
learned, because as a woman, I wouldn't directly come and say, oh, I need this. Besides, I don't come from the Western society and I was not brought up here. Straightforwardness like this was not a part of my mentality. So I learned that with men who primarily have blinders, usually in life, not going right and left, just blinders to solve problems, to go forward, you have to open your mouth and say it into the man's ear. Listen, this is what I need. This is how I feel. This is how it makes me feel. And not really expecting the man or giving little slight clues that he may not even understand, that he may completely dismiss it completely of what I need. And then women blame men for not understanding them. Oh, I gave him so many clues. I told them. In the female mind, giving those little clues is essentially telling the man, when in fact that they didn't, a man did not hear. So you were absolutely right. I agree with that. Come with empathy, come with the understanding that a man wants to, your man wants to solve your problem. He wants to be there for you in majority of the cases, but you need to have also a compassionate approach and understanding that there are biological, psychological differences between the sexes.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah,
It kind of reminds me of the story of my grandmother. My grandmother was, her name was Narcissus, and
yeah,
I never understood what that word. I mean, that was a beautiful name. I did understand that she was. The story was her mother named her Narcissus uh, because it was a beautiful flower. They were living in Louisiana at the time. She was a little girl, and the state flower was the narcissus flower. And it was this beautiful flower. So when she was born, her mother said, she is as beautiful as this flower, the narcissus," and so she named her that. And that, so that was really, really sweet, and it had nothing to do with narcissistic behavior, right? And so, but then there's another old folklore story about the guy over in Eastern in Asia that went to the lake, and
in Greece, yes.
Greece, okay, and he looked in the water and he saw how beautiful he was. The water,
Yeah,
gave his reflection, and it was like mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the most beautiful of them all, and he took on that, and everybody in the village just always said he was the most beautiful person, and so he became what they call, it was a narcissistic kind of reflection of himself, but it was not a harmful thing.
yeah, he
Now,
fell in love with his own reflection in the water.
yes, with his own reflection. So what's wrong with falling in love with your own reflection? So let's move that to relationships. What's wrong with falling in love with your own reflection in your world, in whatever world that is? And it looks like I'm self-centered. I'm selfish and I'm self-focused. But maybe I need to be, because maybe I need to have that motivation to continue to do the things that drive me to be successful in life, so I can make sure that I have the capacity and also the resources to support my woman and not be attacked by the fact that I think that, I mean, so sure. So let's think about like how we like to look when we leave our home and we go to work. Some people like to really dress up and look very nice, and and men like to do that as well. And so that could really be taken by women, is that that person is conceited, and that person is, that's some narcissistic behavior, because the focus is always on what they got on, what they wear, and what they buy, and that turns, and so that costs money, and that money that's leaving the household turns into an argument in regards to why you putting all this money toward your personal appearance, and that turns into another kind of argument. So
That is so great to hear that from your perspective as well, because also as a woman, I cannot step into your shoes. I know a lot about the differences and the relationships, of course, being a therapist, but at the same time, I wouldn't even know that a woman can actually chastise you from looking nice and putting on the nice clothes and leaving the house. For whom are you getting dressed like that? For myself, for myself. That, of course, is excessive obsession with your appearance can be attributed as narcissistic, but then also there has to be some other characteristics that would go along with it, and that's the shallowness in the interaction. Um, we have to put everything together. There has to be lack of empathy, grandiosity, entitlement, also superficiality, right? Arrogance again. So if you don't have those things and you do want to look nice, there are different gradations, of course, the variations of looking nice and in love with yourself, right? If you
Right.
are obsessed with your image, then that's one thing. If you want to look nice and elegant, and that is a reflection of your inner core, then
Hmm.
that is different. I myself was called as a narcissist teaching at the university and dressing appropriately as I thought it should be, avoiding sweatpants, avoiding some slightly oversized, I don't know, absolutely um, clothes that do not even look good on you, right? And they are not
Yes.
appropriate for the university setting, even to go teach, because as a professor, as a teacher, as an instructor, you have an obligation. There is a moral obligation, of course, also. So you go and you set an example for everybody else. So I was also called a narcissist only at the work setting, and that was one
Mm.
of the examples. And interestingly enough, that after that, women started emulating the way that I dress in so many different departments that I worked, and they would want to take a better care of themselves,
Hmm.
because that shows first, of course, who you are, right? The first impressions are always important. And what we lack in ourselves, of course, and we see it in others, we're envious. And just because we're envious, we have the self-defense mechanisms showing up, and of course we have to chastise us with another person. So I do love when people dress nice, when they take care of themselves, but not to the obsessive moment, because once you start posting your photographs incessantly on the social media in different in one location, 100 pictures, and just in one location from the different angles, then that could be a problem. And
Yes.
we need to pay attention to that. And of course, it's not only in relationships, which of course is the topic of our discussion here. People and women can come and say, oh no, that this is wrong. We are mostly very caring and nurturing people, but at the same time, they did not have experiences with a female narcissist per se. You may have a narcissistic mother and be scarred for life. And of course, that if anyone watched the Mommy Dearest would and had this similar experiences in the childhood, they would be able to understand,
Right.
because the narcissistic mothers, they are cold, they're distant, they have poor boundaries, they're invalidating and inconsistent. And as a child, you want that consistency, you want love and support and encouragement, and it is not there. So people do grow up very scarred because of that, and they will know that it is possible for women to be narcissistic.
Well, I mean, that's interesting. What you're saying, and let's think about how that plays into your adult life, childhood lived experiences, parents being similar to that coldness that we saw in that movie, and certainly I have known many people that have come up in households like that, and sure enough, they're now older and they have those kind of characteristics. They treat their children the same way, and their children, will treat their children the same way, and so we have this continual perpetuation of behavior that goes, multi-generationally. Um, and
But
then
we
we also I think about, the relationships that your partner have been in previously, up until they're in a relationship with you, and chances are maybe some of that some of those experiences, they may have encountered a narcissist, and so I see a lot of women that are bitter, the women that are bitter because of those abusive relationships that they've been in, and maybe they have also been an abuser themselves and not even know it. So I like to talk about that. What do you think?
I'm so glad that you brought it up because those children that you were talking about from narcissistic mothers, fathers, they do grow up. They do grow up into Yana. They do grow up into Odell. They do grow up into men and women. And then we are looking for the relationships that we are used to, the pattern of the relationship. So if we had an abusive parent, we will be looking for the same when we grow up because that feels very safe for us. And any normal relationship, if we did not have any the depiction of any normal relationship when we were growing up, if our parental relationships were very toxic, yelling and screaming and misunderstanding and mistreating you, then we don't understand what the nice relationship understanding is. And even if we get into that, we always crave, we are uncomfortable in that relationship, we crave some drama, we crave some depreciation, unappreciation, violence, for example, if we experience that subconsciously, because for us it is a normal thing. So that
Hmm.
is so very sad because those little children that grow into adults, and that is why we tolerate those behavior.
Hmm.
For example, like with women, right, in relationships, women can also be following the same exact pattern as male narcissists, right? Only slightly, perhaps differently, maybe not so overtly, although lately it became really overt and open in aggression. But they would use a lot of covert tactics, passive aggressive behavior, right? And to get what they need. And for example, let's just take it. You're in a relationship with a woman, right? And you try to provide as a man. Of course, you're brought up to take care of your family, your children, like you said, and your woman. Of course, you love your woman. You want her to be happy, and then you do everything for her, and she's makes a scene, for example. Oh, I want this Birkin purse, like because my girlfriend had it, right? I want that. And okay, you said, all right, like we're gonna buy that purse, and then all of a sudden her girlfriend bought another purse, and this is not enough again. And then she demands even more from you. Okay, so my other girlfriend, just because of that jealousy, or our friends, they went on this vacation and that vacation, let's go too. And then you take her on even better vacation in some posh place, but that place may not be posh enough. So there is this incessive desire to be catered for, to be not only provided for, but also to be there for her continuously. And that can become pretty toxic and straining on a man's psyche.
Yes.
So you continue to provide that, and based on the relationship that you had with your mother, for example, then that woman seems normal to you. Okay, so this is a normal behavior, right? I'll just continue to provide for her to make her happy. And there's never enough. When is the time that you say enough is enough? Because sometimes it can be so difficult. You are entangled so much, you are married, you have children, and then there's constant putting down, just not thinking about you, completely dismissing your opinions, your role of the provider, putting you down. when enough is enough.
Right. What is enough. Those backhand comments um, often comes, and over a period of time, they begin to wear you down, and you begin to question your own self-esteem and self-efficacy based on the mirroring of what your woman is saying to you about. I mean, just the criticism that are really demeaning. They're not positive, and they're harmful. And so so I really want to look at the harm that narcissistic women cause men, and rather than just kind of really focusing on the harm that is allegedly caused by men to women. So those, I mean, that passive aggressive behavior it's really detrimental as well to a relationship and to men. So also the manipulative behavior that women have the tendency to have, the using the charm and to manipulate to get what they want, and not being really sincere about that charm, and willing to take that charm away at the drop of a moment if they don't get what they want, or if they're not making any, if they don't see it as being effective on um, turning the table in regards to the man's decisions or his behavior, and that could cause harm as well. So I think that I think that I mean, we should stop looking at only men are God, they're narcissists. That's just the bottom line. That's just the word that's on the street. That's the word that's in the atmosphere, the universe. But I think that we both share, men and women, narcissistic behavior.
Absolutely. Equally.
Yes.
Equally. Before it was thought that, and research showed that there were less women narcissists and then more male. Now it's about 50-50. So we can't really blame one or the other party. And of course, if we look at the situation in the relationship, for example, that there is frustration, there's misunderstanding, and of course, you would feel frustrated. Perhaps the man is also narcissistic, right? And the woman is a good woman, not a narcissistic woman in a relationship with an abusive man, right? That discouragement, being upset is justified. And she would look for solutions for herself, and she would get angry. She wouldn't understand what is happening with her because of the severe gaslighting that both men and women use, of course. They will try to make the sense of their environment. However, then we need to stop blaming the opposite sex, not just the opposite sex, or just men for being the primary predators and narcissists when women can behave exactly the same way, violently, physically, and emotionally calling names. It's one thing that you can be upset and not understanding what is happening in the relationship, and another is calling names, completely dismantling the personality of a man. And of course, it goes both ways. But here we're talking about the, women. And
Yes.
a lot of the times when this abuse happens in a relationship, screaming and yelling and throwing things, right? It's physically abusive. Men are hesitant even to call the police. Well, of course, it has everything to do with the upbringing as well. Like, for example, you probably wouldn't even call the police. You wouldn't want to look ridiculous that you're calling police on a woman, right? What is it like? I can't solve my own problems, right? And I'm going to look ridiculous if a police comes and here's a woman screaming at me, and people are going to think that I cannot manage my woman. That is why there is not that many reports of female abusers up until the time that probably they uh, set something on fire, right? Or kill you or kill other people or children. So we don't hear that much until people come and start talking about it. And men don't really talk about that because they don't want to look ridiculous. They don't want to look like they don't have power because it's already in our world, and it's been happening for such a long time, the complete emasculation of a male kind.
Mm, mm.
That
So,
is serious.
so in other words, what you're saying then is that that's the silence. Men are being silenced. If a man is in an abusive relationship and this physical, it's in private in their home, and he's not comfortable calling the police to protect himself and to protect the woman, because usually the finger's going to be pointed at the man, more than likely. Well, because men are more stronger and powerful and larger than women in many cases. So that's kind of like a really hard battle to fight. Um, and it could turn out to be a very bad situation. So a man would just just walk away and leave the house at these times, just to prevent that from getting to escalating to that extent that he don't have a voice in this. And almost don't have a choice because the police are going to more than likely take side with the woman.
That is the saddest thing. I have seen a lot from long time ago. I've been observing. It's already been probably even 25 years that I've been observing here in the West, that came to my attention. Uh, Emasculating of men, just putting them down, trying to take the power from them. And I am not minimizing the importance of equal rights. This is not what I'm saying. I can already foresee some people talking about it, and I need to say that this is not my intent. But how we take the power back, how we become equal with men. Well, first, that we can never be equal because of the biological differences. We can never be equal. We speak so much about equality when we're not equal. Just stating the fact, what you just said, that biologically men are larger than women. Right.
Right.
And psychologically, emotionally, physically, we are different. And lately, of course, there is a tendency to take the power back, and that's in a violent, in a very destructive way to a man, because I can see that uh, there is no polite way to take it back as they think. They have to put their teeth into that and tear it, essentially pieces of flesh out of a patriarchal world, right? A piece of a flesh of a man in order to have assert their power. And that is not the way. In my opinion, it has to be done a smarter way, and not really screaming at every corner equality and I am on the same level as you are. I have the same rights, and that is why I can behave this way. Women, well, as well as men, in a relationship have to be respectful. First and foremost, respectful. And if there is no respect, if there's crossing of boundaries continuous, then there is a problem. And with crossing with narcissistic behavior, there a lot of the times there are no boundaries. They will overstep any boundaries, and those that have kind of weak understanding of boundaries, again, with taking into consideration our upbringing, of course we will have lack of boundaries because of our narcissistic parents, and that
Okay.
becomes a problem for us, not for them, because as predators they will come to take advantage of us, right?
Right. Right.
But we need to understand the behavior, and also understand as men, I was going to say, not we, men have to understand that they don't have to tolerate that behavior. And that is a nonsensical behavior. That is an abusive behavior that should not be tolerated. And even if you are a strong man, an understanding man, There has to be an end at some point.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and I look at the influences of this behavior in regards to social media. You had mentioned mommy dearest, and but now in Hollywood we see movies where women are beating men up real bad,
Oh
killing
yeah,
men.
like the Devil Wears Prada.
Right. I mean, we have so many movies. Women are just in this mode of domination over men. And I think that that really kind of enters the psyche of women that pay attention to that, even though it's all make believe. But it gives some ideology that we do have the power, to dominate men, and it plays into their personal life and social life and family life and work life. And so I think that we really should be careful what we digest, uh, men and women, from make believe in television, because it can be internalized and really tried. I mean, really the attempt could be to live that out in real life, in a relationship. So I think media is a huge influence on this kind of shift in roles and behavior as it relates to women and their outlook in relationships with men.
They normalize that behavior. Social media normalizes that behavior. And what was that? From the 80s, the movie The Fatal Attraction, remember?
Yes.
That is that is going from a long time ago. It's the not only the depiction of the pathology, but also to normalize it, because now as I pay attention to social media and what children watch, right, what we all are presented with to watch. And if you watch it, if you think that, oh, it kind of sounds like interesting, like mindless entertainment, no, it is not. It normalizes all of those things that were not normal before for us. And this pathological behavior becomes a norm. Everything that, oh, it is okay to behave this way. It is okay to dismantle the man's psyche, to put him down and completely use them as a doormat, right? It is
Hmm.
not okay. And of course, the same goes toward women. Again, I'm not minimizing that the importance of it, but I've noticed that in our Western society, women tend to completely dismiss a man. There's lack of respect, the lack of a willingness to understand. It's me, me, me. I'm equal with you when they're not. And
Right.
that creates big problems. Women are still women. They're still in their bodies. They still have female organs, female soul and body, and female heart, and it doesn't go anywhere. And
Right.
the only way for them to take whatever power that they think back is by force and undermining and putting down and essentially turning man into a doormat. And that is very upsetting to me, at least.
Would that be destruction of the relationship? I mean, I think that would be starting the pathway for a relationship that will not last. Who could possibly take that type of uh, manipulation and abuse for too long? Um, then I think that looking at how do we address this? I mean, like, this is coming from, like you had mentioned earlier, childhood experiences, how we were reared up in our family dynamics. But what about the psychological implications around this? Is this, really a condition that could be treated, or could it not be treated? What is the way out from your perspective?
Well, Dr. Adele, what can be treated is the condition and abuse, in fact, the consequences of the abuse that people went through in abusive relationship and a narcissistic relationship. That can be addressed, and that can be fixed, in fact, through therapy and proper self-care and understanding of the situation. However, narcissism is untreatable. Well, Narcissists, just because they believe that the world belongs to them and everything is fine, and most of the time, 99.9%, they will adopt the victim mentality. They don't go to therapy. And if they do, it's always, I've been mistreated. It's not that they come to the therapist and they say, um, I'm trying to make sense of the situation. I've been feeling so bad for so long that I finally lose the grip of reality. I need to make sense of my situation. But when narcissists, they come to therapy, they would say that, oh, poor me. I've been mistreated my entire life, for example, and person after person that comes into my life just mistreats me dearly, right?
Mm,
So
mm,
narcissists don't go to therapy because they think that they're always right.
mm. Okay.
And all we can do is, if we encounter a narcissist, and we're not talking, of course, here with about the narcissistic traits, because we all have narcissistic traits, and we are narcissists from the day that we were born, craving attention, of course. And that is normal. That is absolutely normal. We have to have a healthy level of self-esteem, some self-appreciation, of course, because without it we are not able to live our lives, we're not able to achieve anything or any of our goals. We have to be able to have respect in ourselves and our abilities to pursue those goals. But we're talking about pathological narcissism here, and not always it's going to be a narcissistic personality disorder per se, but it could be a collection of narcissistic traits that are not only harmful for the person possessing them, of course, that very damaging for the opposite party, whether a partner or a colleague or a child or a parent, right?
Right.
And it is untreatable. Unfortunately, it is untreatable. If they understand, there are lots of people, even with the borderline personality disorder, that are so difficult to treat, can only be managed. They don't
But
come to.
I think the manage part is kind of where I would like to, kind of chime in, and that if it's you with a partner and that person, someone that you're married to them, or you just in a very very committed and serious relationship, and it really it comes down to the what value do you put on that relationship? Is it enough value to where you are willing to learn the characteristics? So now you got to educate yourself about these traits of a narcissist, behavior,
You
and then
owe it to
also
yourself. You owe it to yourself. Yeah.
yes, and then you become does you educate yourself, and then you become somewhat of an expert of how to manage it, the relationship, and when that particular person goes into their modes of manipulation or gaslighting or blaming, then you know how to kind of respond to that in a way that it doesn't escalate the situation into something that could be more explosive and cause harm. So I think that, and I think that a lot of people that I speak with, that has narcissistic behavior that openly admits it, say that pretty much I just kind of like just ignore that, or I move away from that, I go and do something else, and then when I come back, the environment is clear, so all the smoke is kind of cleared the room, and now we could have a conversation, and it could be possibly a good, healthy conversation, but not saying this is not going to be a continual, kind of a situation, because again, that those traits are there, and so there'll be another situation that may come up, at another time, and that same behavior will occur again, and then you know how to manage that person, the attacks that you're going to get by doing the things that seem to work, for you.
That works. That works for so many people that I've noticed that it does. Up until very late in life, and I met the older couples that do adopt this technique, just to walking away and not really paying attention to the chatter, of course, and then they come back and everything is fine after that, right? Until the next time. But we are in love with our partner, right? We're in love, we love them, and of course we will forgive them so many times. But like you said, educating yourself and knowing that that is abnormal, that is an abnormal behavior. This abuse that you tolerate all the time, this not enough is not right. And then if you're not strong enough, you start feeling that you are not enough. You start feeling that you are the problem, right? Like you were just accused of you are a narcissist. Why are you talking about it? Right? You yourself are a narcissist. So it's easy for people to do that. According to Jung, what we see in others that irritates us about them, we have it in ourselves. So those that jump at you with improper intentions and pointing fingers at you, like why are you doing that? You shouldn't be doing that, is has the element of narcissism there. Regular people, not just regular, the ordinary people, good people, let's just say, that don't have the narcissistic personality disorder, they might just question you and say that, oh, it's kind of inappropriate, that I've never seen any narcissistic women, never encountered any narcissistic abuse from women, that it doesn't exist. Why are you talking about that? It's inappropriate. They can inquire without blaming you, without pointing fingers. Once there is a blame, once there's pointing fingers, you have to ask yourself a question. Ask yourself a question. Not everything in a relationship is normal and can be rationalized.
Exactly.
So at some point in time, if there is a way out, you have to leave, because narcissists, they don't change. It's always going to be the same pattern of behavior. And you might oppose me on this and say, oh, but there are moments, there are great moments, right? In between all those problems, when we make up and we in such a euphoric state, and the make love making is fantastic and everything else, and you think that, oh, you're on top of the world again. That is, in fact, is the pattern of behavior, narcissistic behavior. When they love bomb you at the beginning, they will put you on a pedestal, making you believe that you're the best person in the world, the most fantastic, the most handsome, the most beautiful, the best man in the world, right? And then uh, there will be a stage of discard, of course, devaluation, and then discard. And then again, after that, once you start understanding, hey, something is wrong here, and you start walking away, they will be hoovering again. They will come back to you. They say, oh, Odell, you know what? Maybe I was wrong. You are so handsome. We've been so happy together. So what? There was this misunderstanding, that we have a history. Let's go here. Let's go there. Let's meet for dinner. Let's meet for coffee. And then after that, you meet that person. Say, you know what? It's not that bad. It's not that bad. And you get back with that person again. And the same thing will happen again and again and again. And I know that many people, many listeners and viewers, they will be able to relate to that, because this is a universal pattern, unfortunately. And of course, you always you're a solution oriented person and a scholar, and you're like, okay, how can we find a solution? How can we deal with it? The world has been dealing with that for centuries,
Yes.
you know and we can do that on our own personal level. We owe it to ourselves to ask, uh, talk to ourselves, because there's uh, psychological study that after 40, people start talking to themselves, right? And
Right.
yeah, we do, and that is absolutely normal. So if you do ask yourself that question, hey, am I in a normal relationship? Is it normal? But if you have friends that are going through the same relationship and they're tolerating that behavior, you think, oh, yeah, it is normal. Maybe I should just keep my woman happy. Uh, and then you realize that you're not able to make her happy permanently, right? There's always have to be something. You're always not enough. You're always not providing enough. So Ask yourself a question. How long is that going to be? At what expense? At the expense of your self esteem, at the expense of your fractured soul. So
Yes.
that has to be understood first, and we owe it to ourselves. We have to do that research if that happens. Go to therapy, go listen to podcasts, listen to other people, but have to be mindful that you have to approach it critically. You teach critical theory, and
Yes.
that, yeah, so have to approach everything critically and see what works for you.
Right. I certainly agree with that. And that was really a great explanation of this management and managing this and managing yourself. And then you really have to make a decision. Is it time for me to go? You got to really ask yourself those questions. Can I live with this? And how long can I live with this? And we're getting older. And do we have time to spend 10, 20 years with someone that keeps repeating the same cycle over and over again? And all the love bombing comes in, and we feel like great, like this is
Yeah,
going to work out. This feels good.
and there's
And
hope.
before, yeah,
Yeah.
and before the day is over, there you go again, right? And then it just continually repeats itself. So right now we're looking at a political climate, with Kamala Harris, that's running for president, and there's a lot of attack on her. I mean, so I don't know. I mean, you would think that the men are kind of like attacking her because maybe she's wearing that, being in the role of the masculine. There's never been a woman president of the United States. We just recently
Hmm.
had one elected in Mexico for the first time in history. So it kind of makes sense. This is the era of women, right? And women are trying to take their rights back and be able to manage their own bodies and reproductive health and things of that nature. And men are just slamming and slamming everywhere they can. And so I just wonder, though, so is that narcissistic behavior with the men, or is it narcissistic behavior with the woman that's trying to lead a country?
Narcissistic behavior, any person in power, of course, has the elements of narcissism in them. But I'm not so politically inclined, but it was my understanding that she didn't run essentially for power before when she became a vice president. She was appointed essentially, and now she was also again nominated essentially by the president to run for presidency. So I don't see that at her. I don't see
But
that.
she
Of
did
course,
she did run for president, and she dropped out of the race because she just was not getting any traction in 2016. Was it
uh-huh.
16?
I didn't know
No,
that.
no, sorry, 2020, 21. Yeah. And so she just went back to her Senate seat, but and then she was selected for vice president, and now selected for this role too, as you are correct. Okay, so I don't see Kamala Kamala. I don't see her as being a narcissist. I see her as being a person that's goal oriented and want to do good for the world. But I must admit, the attacks on her and on women in general are narcissistic attacks.
Those are even, yeah, they're narcissistic attacks because that's a blow into man's face, right? It's a
Right.
blow that a woman is going to be governing me, essentially. She's going to be ruling over me. And of course, it is kind of demeaning. It's never happened before. And men with a lack of conscience or moral qualities that will be attacking her in a very mean ways uh, with the very negative language, for the lack of a better word. um, I don't really, I don't talk about politics because there's so much involved, and there's a lot of conversation about all presidents being narcissists, for example, especially Trump. And I don't get really involved in that conversation. However, I can mention that what I see, all those attacks, either on her or Trump, for example, uh, I see that it is not done is in a very literal way, in the informed way, in the polite way. It is done to destroy using a very bad language.
Mm,
And I steer away from those conversations. I steer away from even places where that is discussed,
mm,
because once you start uh, attacking the person in that way, there is no future for that. And those people even
right.
do not deserve my attention. If you have, for example, an informed opinion, let's just say, and proper arguments, that we can have a debate, not to kill each other, but to learn something that is supposed to be the purpose of the debate, where the truth is born, right? What the Socrates said, right? Then it is that polemics can have a future or be sustainable. But a lot of this attacks is like hyena attacks. It's not the anything different than the hyena attacks, because if you can have a proper conversation, proper um, mode of talking, intelligent way of talking, respectful to your opponent, it's a one thing. But when there is the opposite, you can talk about all the narcissistic behavior because there's own self-esteem is wounded, right? How dare she become a president or even run for presidency? Who is she, right?
Right.
Then um then all this conversation takes place, and that is so unfortunate, because I am not a feminist in the common understanding of it, but I wouldn't want to have um, an intelligent president, and even a woman, to rule over our country.
Yes.
So those that's a very interesting question that you asked. A very
You know,
pertinent question.
I
It
didn't. So I didn't mean.
started me thinking.
I didn't mean to get off into politics, but I see some stuff over there, right? That this conversation can certainly be
Yeah.
relatable to. But but finally, so in society, women are on this. They're on this surge to be beautiful, and society is pushing so many different beauty kinds of tips to women in regards to the augmentation, the Botox, the facelifts, the wigs, the weaves. so and so and so I think there's a disidentification that's happening with those women in regards to that turns into some kind of narcissistic behavior because they're seeking gratification that society has put on them. This is the way you're supposed to look and act and be in the world. And so women then respond by making that become their identity, and the original identity was truly true and was truly beautiful begins to be covered up. And you're not talking to the same person that you were talking to before that beauty influence took place in that woman's
This is very interesting observation. I believe that if there is a substance, if there is this interesting inner world, and deep, and the depth for a woman, for example, she would care for her appearance to a certain extent to look beautiful. But probably a woman with a low self esteem would wear 5 mile artificial eyelashes, for example, or would have the $500 artificial butt installed, right? those were talking already about some psychological deficiencies, insufficiencies, right?
Right.
Um, that is different. That excessive obsession with external beauty and seeking validation, that is narcissistic. But if
Hmm.
there is depth, the depth will dictate that I don't need it. I don't need boob jobs, nose jobs, eye jobs, everything. Jobs. Perhaps just to keep yourself beautiful, right? That you like yourself, but not to the extent that many go, especially here in Southern California. Of course, we can be talking about it, especially here.
Right.
But um, if there is substance, the substance and the depth will dictate where is the limit. And besides, they would pay more attention to different activities and not so much on how to look beautiful, how to seek validation from other people. I hear you that the real uh, soul can be hidden somewhere in between.
Yes.
I think that that soul will always be visible, and like your Narcissus, beautiful grandma Narcissus, who did
Yes.
not have any of those implants, who had the beautiful name and lived up to it to be being just a beautiful flower. And that is, I believe, is the only pro to for a women to be narcissists, women to take care of themselves, to respect themselves enough not to get also into destructive relationship with other abusers, right? That is also a self-respect. That is also the element of self love and respect that can be slightly narcissistic, and that is okay, because here we just completely banish everyone who has narcissistic traits. That is not true. We all have. So if we say that you're a narcissist, you will be lying, because you're a narcissist as well, to a different degree, to a different degree. So
Exactly.
um, there are pros, of course, and most of it is cons of being a narcissist, because you bring destruction to other people. First, you are a person who is already destroyed inside, and of course they will um, fight with me on that. But narcissists, they are already destroyed inside. It is very sad, but that is the case. And that is why they go and destroy other people, because a healthy person will never go on a mission to destroy another human being. So that's what happens. And of course, we can talk about covert narcissism, and that is a totally different animal. And sometimes it is not possible to uh, pinpoint a narcissist right away. It takes time sometimes. And even professionals who've been in this area for years, it takes sometimes a year to even crack the case.
That's interesting.
We need to get educated. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, we need to get educated. We need to have more conversations like this.
Oh, yes. And we will, because there
Yes.
is a huge need for that. But unfortunately, for now, our time is over.
Oh, wow.
And yes, we will be meeting again with Dr. Odell. Thank you for joining us today. Your support means a lot to us, and your viewership and your listenership. Please go to the YouTube channel, Be Honest with Dr. Yana, and please subscribe so you wouldn't miss another episode. I noticed that only 10% of people who listen, they subscribe or even like, and the 90% they listen and they go. So please support us by subscribing and liking and leaving your comments, because we can respond, and this way we know what you would want to be talked about, the topics to be raised and questions answered. So please leave your comments on the YouTube channel under this video or other videos, please, and we will be able to address them. So thank you so much, Dr. Odell, for joining us today.
My
And
pleasure.
we will be seeing each other again.
Okay.
So Thank you, everybody, and have a fantastic day.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.